菜根谭。
Tending the roots of wisdom.
25. 客气福而正气深，忘心杀而真心现。
25. Arrogance is suppressed while righteousness extends. False intentions are dispelled, and true intentions are revealed.
菜根谭原文：今高倨傲，无非客气，降服的客气下，而后正气深。情欲意识尽属妄心，消杀的妄心尽，而后真心现。
白话文注解：人之所以高傲无礼，都是由于熏染了外来的坏习气，只要把这种坏习气消除掉，内在的正气才能伸展出来。人的所有欲望和想象，都是由于妄心所造成的，只要能铲除妄心，善良的本性就会显现出来。
25-1. The reason why people become arrogant and unreasonable is often due to the influence of negative external habits. By eliminating these negative habits, the inherent positive qualities can come to the forefront. All desires and fantasies within a person arise from delusional thoughts. By eradicating these delusional thoughts, one's inherent goodness will manifest. Translated by Bayan Defu.
25-2. Lofty pride and self-important arrogance are artificial. When artifice is subdued and given up, righteous disposition can thrive. Desires and covetousness are wrongful. When the wrongful mind is expunged, the true mind appears. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 25-3. Self-conceit and arrogance are the result of evil influences from outside oneself. Such influences must be suppressed, only then can healthy trends be encouraged. All one's carnal desires and other distractions come from a twisted mind. Only by getting rid of such mental distortions can one's true nature be realized. Translated by Paul White.
25-4. The reason why people become arrogant and unreasonable is often due to the influence of external bad habits. Once these bad habits are eliminated, the inner righteousness can manifest itself. All desires and imaginations of humans are caused by deluded thoughts. Removing these delusions allows the inherent goodness to reveal itself. Translated by Wen Lin.
26. 事物而知除，性定而动正。
26. Understanding eliminates ignorance in affairs. Nature settled, actions become righteous.
菜根谭原文：饱后思味，则浓淡之境都消；色后思淫，则男女之见尽绝。故人常以事后之悔悟，破临事之痴迷，则性定而动无不正。
白话文注解：酒足饭饱之后再回想美酒佳肴的味道，这时所有的甘美味道已全部消失。色欲满足之后再回味性欲的情趣，那男欢女爱的情景荡然无存。因此，如常能将事后之悔悟来做介入另一件事时的参考，就能迷途知返。能按照这个原则去做事，一切行为自然就不会偏离正道，而能合乎义理。
26-1. After being satiated with food and drink, the taste of delicious dishes fades away when recollected. Similarly, after satisfying sexual desires, the allure of lustful thoughts disappears, leaving behind no trace of romantic encounters. Therefore, if one consistently uses hindsight as a reference when engaging in new endeavors, they can correct their path if they go astray. By adhering to this principle, actions will naturally stay on the right track and align with moral principles. Translated by Bayan Defu.
26-2. Consider your feelings when you are satiated. You find that you no longer distinguish between rich and bland. In a similar way, after sexual relations, thoughts of men and women at sport dwindle away completely. Thus you can use the wisdom of hindsight to correct the fixations of the moment. You can frustrate the urge to indulge and keep your conduct steady. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 26-3. If you muse on the flavor of food after you have eaten your fill, the feeling of relishing different flavors vanishes. If you ponder the pleasure of the flesh after satisfying your carnal appetites, then the scene of naked lovemaking disappears. Therefore, If you can use the remorse of hindsight to dispel future foolish obsessions, you can make your nature as steady as a rock and your behavior will always be on the right track. Translated by Paul White.
26-4. After being filled with food and drink, reflecting on the taste of the exquisite dishes reveals that all the sweetness has vanished. Similarly, after satisfying carnal desires, reminiscing about the pleasures of intimacy renders the scenes of passion void. Therefore, if one can use the hindsight of past regrets as a reference when embarking on a new endeavor, it becomes possible to course correct. Adhering to this principle ensures that one's actions align with the right path and conform to ethical standards. Translated by Wen Lin.
27. 宣冕克制在林泉，山林是胸怀郎妙。
27. Amidst the splendor, the noble guest aspires to the woods and springs. The mountain forest scholar harbors ambitions within temples and corridors.
菜根谭原文：居宣冕之中，不可无山林的气味；处林泉之下，需要怀郎妙的经纶。
白话文注解：身为名流政要者，要保持一种隐居山林、淡泊名利的思想；身为平民，隐居田园中的人，必须要保持兴邦治国的志士情怀。
27-1. The esteemed officials of the court should cultivate a touch of the hermit's mindset, residing amidst mountains and forests. Similarly, the recluse should never forsake the aspiration and capability to contribute to their nation. Translated by Biandefu.
27-2. Occupying an eminent office, hold in your heart the mountains and forests, living amidst woods and streams, hold in your heart the halls of the Privy Council. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 27-3. The great officers of the court must foster in themselves a bit of the mindset of the hermit who lives in the mountains and forests. At the same time, the recluse must never abandon the ambition and ability to serve his country. Translated by Paul White.
27-4. For those who are celebrities and political leaders, it is essential to maintain a mindset of seclusion in the mountains, detached from fame and fortune. For ordinary people living in rural seclusion, it is necessary to uphold the spirit of a patriot with the ambition to contribute to the prosperity and governance of the nation. Translated by Wen Lin.
28. 无过便是功，无怨便是德。
28. To have no faults is an accomplishment. To harbor no resentment is a virtue.
菜根谭原文：处事不必邀功，无过便是功；与人不求感得，无怨便是德。
白话文注解：人生在世不必太过勉强去争取功劳，其实只要一生少犯过错，就算相当成功了。救助人不去企图对方能感恩图报，只要对方日后不怨恨自己，就算知恩图报了。
28-1. In life, there's no need to overly strive for recognition. Simply avoiding major mistakes can be considered a substantial success. When helping others, there's no need to expect gratitude or repayment. As long as they don't resent you in the future, that can be considered a form of gratitude. Translated by Biandefu.
28-2. In public affairs, it is not necessary to always claim credit, not committing any error is your credit. From others one need not always expect recompense, not causing resentment is your recompense. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 28-3. In conducting yourself, do not expect to accomplish the greatest things, so long as you do not make mistakes, you make achievements. When treating others with kindness, do not expect gratitude in return, so long as you do not cause resentment, that is gratitude enough. Translated by Paul White.
28-4. In life, there is no need to overly strive for achievements. In fact, as long as one avoids major mistakes throughout life, it can be considered quite successful. When helping others, there is no need to expect gratitude or repayment. As long as the person does not harbor resentment in the future, the debt of gratitude is considered repaid. Translated by Wen Lin.
29. 做事勿太苦，待人勿太枯。
29. Do not toil too much in your endeavors, and do not be too austere in dealing with others.
菜根谭原文：忧勤是美德，太苦则无以适性怡情；谈博是高峰，太枯则无以济人利物。
白话文注解：尽心尽力去做事，本来是一种很好的美德，但太过较真，以至于心力交瘁，就会使精神得不到调剂，而丧失人生乐趣。把功名利禄看得很淡，本来是一种高风亮节，但如若过分清心寡欲，对社会大众也就没有什么贡献了。
29-1. Putting your heart and soul into your work is indeed a commendable virtue. But if you push yourself too hard and exhaust your mental and physical energy, you might lose the joy in life. Treating fame and material gains lightly is a noble principle. Yet if you become too detached from worldly desires, you might cease to contribute meaningfully to society. Translated by Bayandefu.
29-2. Sincere endeavor is fine virtue, but excessive stress is hard on your natural disposition. A serene state of mind is lofty, but excessive asceticism does not help and benefit others. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 29-3. Exerting yourself to do a good job is a fine moral trait. But if you make yourself too miserable in the process, then your own ease of mind becomes impossible. Indifference to wealth and power is a noble quality. But if you are a bit too passive, then you will not be able to assist people or to benefit society. Translated by Paul White.
29-4. Putting forth one's utmost effort to accomplish tasks is originally a commendable virtue. But becoming excessively meticulous to the point of mental exhaustion can lead to a loss of joy in life. Regarding fame, position, and wealth with indifference is, in essence, a noble quality. But if one becomes excessively detached and disinterested, it may result in a lack of contribution to the larger society. Translated by Wen Lin.
30. 原谅失败者之初心，注意成功者之末路。
30. Forgive the initial aspirations of those who fail. Pay attention to the ultimate paths of those who succeed.
菜根谭原文：事穷事促之人，当圆其初心；功成形满之事，要观其末路。
白话文注解：评判一个事业失败、穷困潦倒的人，要了解他做事的初衷；评判一个功成名就、春风得意的人，要观察他人生的晚节。
30-1. To judge a person who has faced career failure and financial adversity, one should understand their initial intentions and motives. To assess a person who has achieved success and fame, one should observe their behavior and character in the later stages of life. Translated by Bayandefu.
30-2. At a dilemma in your program, summon up your original intention. When you are enjoying the fullness of success, look carefully at the road ahead. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 30-3. When judging a person who has encountered misfortune and hardship, it is necessary to understand the aspirations and ambitions he set out with. When judging a person who has achieved success, it is necessary to examine whether he maintains his moral integrity in his old age. Translated by Paul White.
30-4. To judge someone whose endeavor has failed and is in poverty, one should understand the initial intentions behind their actions. To assess someone who has achieved success and is riding high in life, one should observe the later stages of their life. Translated by Wen Lin.
31. 富者应多施舍，智者宜不炫耀。
31. Wealthy individuals should engage in more charitable acts, and wise individuals should avoid boasting.
菜根谭原文：富贵加宜宽厚，而反即克，是富贵而贫贱其行矣。如何能想？聪明人以敛藏，而反炫耀，是聪明而愚猛其病矣。如何不败？
白话文注解：家境富贵、待人接物本应宽大仁厚，却反而刻薄无礼，这种人貌似富贵，实则贫贱，他的人生怎能真正享受到富贵呢？聪明的人本应谦虚有礼，不露锋芒，却反而到处炫耀，这种人看似聪明，实则浅薄，他的事业到头来又如何能不败呢？
31:1. Those who come from affluent backgrounds should naturally be generous and kind in their interactions. Yet some may display harshness and irrationality. Such individuals may appear wealthy, but in reality, their character reflects poverty. How can they truly enjoy their wealth and prosperity? Similarly, intelligent individuals should be modest and courteous, avoiding overt displays of their abilities. Yet some choose to flaunt their intelligence everywhere. These people might seem clever, but in truth, their shallowness becomes evident. How can their endeavors ultimately avoid failure? Translated by Bayandefu.
31:2. It is fitting that a wealthy and privileged family be generous and kind, but when the family turns out to be neglectful and stingy, they may enjoy wealth, but they practice meanness. How could that be very enjoyable? It is fitting for an astute person to be altogether modest and reserved, but when such a person turns out to be a glorified braggart, it is as though a disease of stupid foolishness had set in. How could that not be ruinous? Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 31:3. A person of riches and rank should be magnanimous, and never be envious or stingy. Otherwise he would be acting like a mean person, and how then could he really enjoy his riches? By the same token, a person of learning should keep his talents concealed. If he makes a dazzling show of them, then he will be acting like a fool. How could he not come to grief? Translated by Paul White.
31:4. One who is well off in material wealth and social status should ideally be magnanimous and generous in dealings with others. However, if they are instead petty and unreasonable, despite outward appearances of wealth, they may be spiritually impoverished. How can such a person truly enjoy the benefits of affluence? A clever individual should naturally be modest and courteous, avoiding the display of sharp edges. If they instead boast everywhere, appearing clever but in reality superficial, how can their endeavors ultimately avoid failure? Translated by Wen Lin.
32. 居安思危，处乱思治。
32. In times of peace, think of danger. In times of disorder, think of order.
菜根谭原文：居卑而后知登高之为威，处晦而后知象明之太矮，守静而后知好动之过劳，养默而后知多言之为躁。
白话文注解：位居卑微之后，才懂得身处高位之危险；身处晦暗之后，才知道荣耀光环之虚伪；甘于淡泊之后，才明白逐名逐利之辛苦；涵养沉默之后，才发现喋喋不休之浅薄。
32-1. After occupying a humble position, one comes to understand the dangers of being in a high position. After being in obscurity, one realizes the hypocrisy of the glory halo. After being content with simplicity, one grasps the hardships of pursuing fame and profit. After cultivating silence, one discovers the shallowness of incessant chatter. Translated by Bayandefu.
32:2. After living in poverty, you know how perilous it is to rise high. After dwelling in obscurity, you know how perilous it is to be exposed. After maintaining a tranquil life, you know how odious it is to toil immoderately. After cultivating silence, you know how strident verbosity can be. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 32:3. You can only think of the danger of ascending to a high place after you have stood in a low place. It is only when you have experienced darkness that you realize how brightness can dazzle the eyes. After cultivating tranquility, you then know how those who are fond of movement toil. Only a person who has fostered the art of taciturnity knows how annoying a babbler can be. Translated by Paul White.
32-4. Only after occupying a humble position does one understand the dangers of being in a high position. Only when in obscurity does one realize the hypocrisy of the halo of glory. After being content with simplicity, one comprehends the hardships of chasing fame and fortune. And it is through cultivating silence that one discovers the shallowness of ceaseless chatter. Translated by Wen Lin.